We are at the beginning of the end. We have 5 chapters to go after this one in the Thousandfold Thought and the Prince of Nothing trilogy, and up to where we have read, as always. We will be talking full spoilers. Um, and on that note, I will mention what we ended on in chapter 12, which will be the last of the 4 chapters we cover today, um, where Kellis says we are headed off to Shima.
Hmm.
So we're so close. And it's I wouldn't call it bittersweet just yet, just because apparently we have 4 books left of the Second Apocalypse as a whole that um, get a lot of praise even above this trilogy. But what we'll get into at the end of this is I laid out a little bit of a kind of predictions for where I think certain characters are going to end up, and like kind of a wish list of where I hope events I hope to see happen. What's weird is like there are a couple like specific answers I want, um, but mainly kind of just broad areas where I want more information. And I don't even know what questions to ask because I feel like that's kind of the style with this.
Hmm.
I don't even, you know, I think you have an idea of what I'm saying, but
I hope so.
we'll get into it. We'll get into it. For now, though, we can start with chapter 9. Which I think was kind of in terms of events, I think is pretty straightforward. So I'll give a little summary of it. It should be fairly brief, but then there's kind of some meat in the middle. And I would say about this section, it was very kind of like reflective and getting into some of the more big ideas, which I'll hit on here. So we pick back up with Nayor, who was captured by Confis, and Confis is just so pleased with himself right now. He's kind of gloating. He's like talking about how hyped up he was when he conquered the Skilvendi back in book 1.
Hmm.
And he could do anything if he could do that.
They don't call him the
Because he
Lion of
loves
Cayuse for nothing.
apparently not. But yeah, I mean, Nayor still manages to piss him off and gets a kick in the face accordingly. So, but then when Conphus turns around later on, General Sampus, skin spy, lets the man loose. And among the skin spies, there is one posing as Surway, and Nayor's asking no questions. He's down for that. Um, yeah, so we do get a little bit more confis after the escape is kind of revealed, where basically he's missing Martimus because he's now going to count on Sampus to go after uh, go after Nayor.
You got to have a foil.
He's right. So wait, say it again, sorry.
You got to have your foil. And that's what he.
Hmm.
That's what conference always says. I need my foil. Every great leader needs a foil, and Martimus was
Yep,
that foil.
right, precisely. Now he is stuck with someone who basically says, "All right, get this done." I think he like offers him like the Excel general position, and otherwise, I'm gonna ruin your life. So with that, there is a crew of Nansor people after Nayor and the Skin Spies, who are venturing off, and they want they're trying to dissect what they can about the Dune Yane, of course, as we know. Um, and yeah, just want to make a note of this, even though of course we've talked about this, like for the amount of like angry drive and physical force Nayor has, like juxtapose that with how he's like certainly just the most receptive to possession, I think, out of like any of our characters. Ironically. And then like it's kind of a discussion about how there are like 2 sides within him right now. Like I kind of
Yeah.
get the vibe the consult's like possessing him here. Like are those 2 sides the conflicting compulsions of Moingus and the consult? I don't know. Again with Nayor and his stream of consciousness, it's pretty abstract and all that. One thing that was really kind of hit on a lot though, um, is sort of like the determinism and your actions being like predetermined and controlled. Like the branching action is sort of talked about a lot.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and like there's like contain are you like contained by like the roots of the tree, Something I think is I feel like Bakker kind of takes a very like computer sciencey way to describing like paths of actions. Like, you know, you have the shortest path idea, of
Yeah, oh,
course, with
shortest
like
path.
Kellis optimizing his decisions. Yeah, no, I know you you can relate with some of those CS classes you've taken with. Hopefully that isn't bringing back too much trauma for you hearing about.
Trauma,
But I mean,
no.
literally, like just the way he describes things are like sort of a, you know, with Kellis, it's, you know, basically kind of a decision tree. But then like with all the sort of actions that one could take, like there's discussion like, you know, you have all these possible paths, but like are those determined by the? I'm kind of butchering this, but yeah, just a lot of kind of focus on the determinism stuff and like I don't know, Baker's the way Bakker sort of frames all that to me is um, like it's certainly a uh, well uh, you know supported like a popular sort of stance if you look at that from like a nihilistic view. I don't know. I kind of try to take a more not even necessarily like hopeful view about those things. Where like I've mentioned this before, where like I wouldn't say like humans have free will, therefore like determinism is false. Like I don't feel that way.
Mm,
But I've kind of got this like compatibilist view to it, where like um, it's just kind of like a way you could frame the world, determinism. And
mm,
then like in terms of how you like, there are still the streams of thought that one has to have to determine their actions. And like you could categorize those as free decisions, even if they might be in the end predetermined. Like you still have to be taking conscious action there. As to what the results will be, yeah, sure, they might be predetermined, but I don't know. It's just sort of a way of thought that I, in a sense, find pretty useless. But I don't know. Maybe I'm an outlier there, and I'm an amateur, so whatever.
I
But
don't blame you.
yeah, I don't know. You have any thoughts on this? Because
Well, I don't know. I always thought determinism, I don't know if I would say I'm a subscriber to determinism. For me, it's like, it, I guess so what someone said one time kind of is exactly how I feel. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's determined to me. It does not matter if everything's predetermined or not. At the end of the day, I still got to do stuff. Like, I got to get up out of bed. I got to go to work. Whether it's predetermined or not is not going to change that fact. I mean,
that's
yeah,
exact. Okay, we're on the same page, and I
yeah.
think you've actually said that in a past episode, or just to me, like offline or whatever.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I mean, the whole kind of thing is like I don't know where I might like kind of push back on Baker's approach to this is like Baker done like clearly with Nayor, the whole thing is like he is very like listen in terms of determinism and how that influences your frames your choices and things like that. Like, yeah, the conditions of our world as they currently are will like predetermine actions. And for Nayor, many of those conditions and you know internal drives and things like that have been manipulated by like some specific external factors that you could call manipulation or heavy influence of other human beings and consciousnesses in a sense, whether that be, of course, Moangus. Now here we have the consult, Surway, which is really just kind of an extension of like the Moangus stuff,
hmm
and then like his cultural identity that he really subscribes to. So I think there is criticism of Nayor to be made, certainly, obviously, in how in, but also like some pity we could have on him um, in what those factors are, how things like that can influence someone's behavior. But determinism at large, I wouldn't necessarily, isn't something I like. I feel like a key distinction should be made in that conversation between why Nayor is down bad about all of this and why I think those things are kind of more specific to him and his experience. I
hmm
don't know. That's kind of, I don't know. I was just got me thinking again because we got very explicit with this sort of exploration in this chapter.
Yeah, we also got
Um,
to explore in one of my first chapters. We'll have like kind of like with the soul and stuff. But I like to bring that up to you later. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, well, that's I mean, this section was very kind of, I think, a little bit of thought-provokingness, which I'm sure we'll definitely get in this last chunk, but
Mhm.
I expect it at least to an extent to be pretty event heavy.
Mhm.
Sure, we'll get an action sequence in there. And yeah, I was looking at the table of contents. Looks like the second to last chapter is just absolutely enormous. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, little time to wallow in the. Well, actually, we still got some more things that happen in this chapter. I mean, basically, what ends up going down is this is all just sort of at the forefront of Nayor, just traversing along, um, feeling a certain way about how he's treated Surway in the past, um, etc. And then the Nansor do catch up to him. Skin spies do their thing, and this is where I was confused because like this, okay, the skin spy Surway like is in defense of him, and then like dies, but then like what was happening here? Can you explain this? Like, were there multiple surveys? Were there multiple skin spy surveys? I got lost.
So kinda. It's not like multiple stories. There was multiple skin spies because this was a chapter with like you're talking about. Are you talking about when Nayar was fleeing with um the Sarwa and the brothers? Right. That's what you're saying. Kind of
Yeah,
talking
yeah, yeah.
about. So yeah. So there was like they were escaping, and eventually it was Biaxi's dude's name is. I keep forgetting the dude's name. The one that replaced Artemis. Sampus, right? Yeah, Sampus. So Zombies and crew made it there, um, and so there was Surway, so the skin spies that was Surway, and then they had a bunch of the twins that were there, and the twins went to escape into the trees, and they basically were swinging like some monkeys swinging back and forth, taking one of each other out, taking out the soldiers that came to get them one at a time.
I like the monkeys swinging back and forth
Like
illustration.
yeah, exactly. And that's how I saw it, just like wink, swinging between tree limbs and snatching people up. Um, and as Surway was trying to defend against like arrows and stuff like from Nayar from getting killed, eventually it battled and it did kill a lot of them, but it died. And then one of the skins, that is the twin skins, I don't know if they call them twin, the brothers took place of that Surwa. So basically, it just changed his face.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, skin spies be confusing, as Kellis will get into later on. But yeah, so um, that's how that went down. Thank you for the assist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so um, there was something else that I totally forgot to write it down, but it was just kind of about the way I don't have the example offhand, but it's almost like the skin spies are kind of manipulating him to get to the Dunyan, almost using Dunyan like tactics, but it's not standing out in my mind what it particularly was. So, but yeah, I'm sure that like we'll get to it later with my predictions in terms of what I want out of Nayor from the end of this book.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm expecting this whole kind of arc of possession with him to carry on uh, to the end of his arc for the trilogy. So yeah, we'll see. But we can pass it off to chapter 10 if you want to. And I actually there was um, good bit of stuff that caught my attention here, but you can go
Actually,
through
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, let me grab my book because I saved some. That's great. I brought my tablet. Technically, I have it. Stuff highlighted on my tablet. At least for the some quotes with the mind stuff and how the magic works for later on. Where is the quotes? Oh, that is not what I wanted to do. Chapter 10. Here we go. Here we go. Here comes the money. Okay. So we start off with the chapter kind of like again zoomed out a little bit, not like a war battle zoomed out. Um, so we see like the Scarlet Spires have finally arrived, and the people of Zerash sent out a new embassy, and to treat with Callus. So they're like, oh snap, uh, the wizards, the sorcerers are here. They're gonna kill us all. So might as well treat with them now, so we can spare our lives. And Callus was like, well, since you made me wait for like 4 days, you're 4 out of the 10 4 out of the 10. So what is that? 2/5, 2/5 of the population needs to be beheaded and given to me. Uh, and it needs to be done by tomorrow. Thank you. And they end up doing that. Um, that ends up being total. What the estimate was supposed to be 20,000 people are supposed to be get beheaded, but they actually overshot it. Call it overachievers, and 23,056 people were killed. Um, Good for them, I guess. Um, we kind of get to learn of like um, what Athgieri, the lead scout. Um, a little bit of a spoiler alert for chapter, I think, 9. We found out that Athgieri does die. Rest in peace, Athgieri, our forward man, as you would say. And but right now he's still alive.
Yeah, that's
So
chapter. He doesn't. Chapter 11 is when he dies, right?
yeah, turning this
That's
your
yeah.
chapter.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, oh, yeah, I said 10. I don't know why I said 10. Anyways, so yeah, he's the first person to actually enter in the Holy Lands of Umatu, which is like, I guess that's the actual land where Shima is located, because Shima is basically a city, but Umatu is like the small I guess the country where, or the county, I guess I would say country where Shima is. He's been
The
fighting.
Providence, if you will.
Yeah,
Not
Providence is
that
better.
actually.
Yeah, probably be sound better.
Region.
Um, so he's been fighting some mercurial kinsmen of Southern blood beast of the and Athpenia. So I don't even know who that is. I just wrote that down. Um, so it's just like some just a little bit of skirmishes you hear back and forth here and there. So it's like that first little like page and a half, 2 pages of that. Um, so and we kind of get the term what the now march to Shime is being called the Toll of Days. And that's pretty much that whole thing. And we kind of fast forward. I mean, I could mention about the Palatine Maseratu being placated by Eliazareth and trying to keep him under control, make sure he doesn't do anything stupid, but um, it was very brief. So we move on to POV, where he's kind of more laser focused. So zoom in on Aka's POV. And he kind of is just, again, ruminating on Esme. That's basically what all Akka does this entire book, I feel like. He's just like, Esme, man, what has changed? Again, I mean, you can't blame him. I mean, he's working with it's like being forced to work for your ex's like husband, and you're forced to see them interact. Or should I say, well, let me give you like a really bad analogy that's probably that you can decide whether to cut. It's like me going to the military, and then your significant other thought that you're just like, it's like going to the military, and your significant other, your partner, decides to, I'm kind of lonely. I'm just gonna go off and go and find a different partner, because there's some miscommunication. Let's say that the United States accidentally sends you the wrong letter to the wrong person saying that you died, and then you come back, and she's snuggled up with a new dude, and it finds out the new dude is your boss
Yeah,
at the new
yeah.
company that you're
Kind of
working
had a
on,
feeling that's where you were
and you're
going. But
like, well, this kind of sucks, because not only is the new dude your boss, but she also works for that company, and he's his secretary, and it's just like,
third wheeling with your ex in the
yeah.
office.
So it's just like, well, shoot, this sucks. Um, so, but basically, Aka's just it's just like, man, she's like, he notices how elevated she is, how beautiful and graceful she is, how intelligent she is, and how Kels was the one that kind of, again, Kels was the one that made her like that, and how those two together are like perfect, and how they seem to be above everyone else in a way, and like their own like class and their own field. and he's like, man, like how can I my hate? He's a prophet. Like how can I hate a prophet? It's like what does that say about my anger if he's telling truth? Um, and then um, and then we kind of focus on like where they're at. So right now they are at Kairuth, I guess Kairuth. I guess how you pronounce it. Or once where the Thousand Temples used to lay. So it was like again, it was a stronghold for the Zarashi kings in the old days of the Chianine Empire. This was the actual home of Pontius Pilate, fake me out Pontius Pilate, or in-world Pontius Pilate. And Kells mentions in this his grandiose speech of like we must rally the troops and head on to Shima. We're gonna be the remembered. We're going to be remembered in glory for what we've done today. Our names will be recognized and all throughout history, like the great kings and great peoples of old. So stand fast and stand strong. We're going to make through this, and we're almost there. Just hang on, basically. Um, and at the end of the speech, he mentioned something about like who there needs to be a king to kind of lead us after Shima and basically announce himself going to be king. Um, which I feel like we kind of glossed over that. Baker kind of glossed over that. I'm like, yo, he just announced himself king, and Confus is like still alive. So, uh, is no one going to challenge him about that? I guess king of just like everything. I don't know. Anyways, actually, I do know, but I'm not going to say anything. So after like Kells gives his long-winded speech, we kind of focus on a little bit of logistics. We see that he's going over logistics with his generals, about like who's attacking what, who's how we're provisioning X, you defend Y, how we're gonna attack like and conquer Shima. And so that goes on for like a half a page of Hujima Watts is doing different things. Like I'm sorry, I'm not gonna remember every person what specifically what they did. I did that last set of chapters, but this one I'm like, it was like so short, and I'm just like, I don't know. There's too many dudes doing too many things that are kind of like not really that important. Well, it is important in the whole scheme of things, but like not really that important in the aspect of
Yeah, I
like the
mean, you
story.
know my style with these.
Yeah,
Those logistics would not be making their way into my breakdown.
yeah. So I'm not gonna go into detail of like who has been assigned to what to clean the kitchen bowls or something like that. Um, so we see that Akka was sitting on a stoop while Kellis is going through his meetings. He's sitting there contemplating whether he's like even capable of protecting Kellis at this point because he's like, yo, the console spies. Oh, and that was another thing. On the way to this like grand cathedral, he notices like a bird that has like marked, but he's like he thought he was seeing things, but we all know that is definitely one of the uh consult, which uh I can explain. I'm just gonna go
I mean,
say it. It's all
Bahare
right.
makes an appearance in my
It's
chapter.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all right. So um but he's like, I don't what the hell bird, why is it marked anyways? But he's sitting there thinking like, man, I can't protect this dude at all, there's no way I can do this. So Proyas interrupts his melancholy thoughts and was like, oh, you need to go see Zen. And Aka's like, no, I don't want to feel made to feel guilty for his decisions and your decisions. Again, um, pretty much avoiding the situation. And um, Proyas is like, basically, I'm not asking, I'm telling. And he walks away. Eventually, again, Aka's still brooding on the whole situation of that, whether he kind of feels guilty about this and stuff. And while Kells approaches him, is like, "Why are you so down in the dumps, teacher man?" And Kells basically, this is like where he starts to get kind of like philosophical in a way. on like what is the soul and how do you define where like here is. And I'm like, okay, like when he I didn't get it at first until he explained like the ocean um analogy, where like the ocean, if you put the ocean into a form of man, compress the ocean to a form of man, it has many different layers. And I'm like, okay, I get it, and to a certain degree. So how I'm seeing it is like, and I could be wrong. I probably am wrong. And I know people are gonna be comments like, this guy is idiot, doesn't know what he's talking about. Shut him up.
They made it through
Uh
the first chapter, man. And
yeah, yeah.
they've all
Um
stopped watching the video.
yeah, they all stopped watching the video, probably. They stopped after episode one, and the darkest lesson was like, yeah, these guys are not worth it. If you're here, I'm surprised. You must be hate watching or something. We're not Argentina here. Anyways, um, it's like how I interpreted it was like your skin is like the boundary. He's talking about the outside world, like your skin's the boundary of the outside world. So you're everything that comprises of you is always within that space. So your internals, your mind, your thought is never moving. It's the outside that's moving. So realistically, Jesus, Sir Janus, it's you're staying in the same spot. And then it gets to the point of like what your eyes see, and how the God sees through your eyes, and how everyone's basically, we all are separated by different aspects and interpretations, and we kind of forget that we are all the same, basically the same being. um and we all had different perspectives, and that's like kind of how he was going off of how love is, and like love is basically being able to perceive someone else's point of view completely. Um, so when someone turned, like he was saying, when as we turned away from him, it's like a lot more hurtful, and so certain aspect. I kind of didn't get it. So I have a quote here that talks about, said. We are all, good Kel says, it said, we are all the God, Kel said, now both solemn and enthused, like a father heartening a beaten son. The God is always here, watching through your very own eyes, and from the eyes of those about you. But we forget who we are, and we begin to think of here as another there, detached, isolate, abject before the immensities of the world. We forget, but we don't all forget equally. Equally, Kellis fixes him by an implacable look. Those who forget the least we call the few. So basically, and that's talking about like, okay, so you forget about certain stuff, but or forget like the God's like will and every aspect of God, but like being able to speak the words of God, which is like sorcery, is their label is a few because you can remember certain cants and stuff like that. So they have the voices of the God. That's basically the language. Um, so I would like to get your interpretation of what he meant here, because like it's just a lot of like, especially with like being here and then like seeing through God's eyes, and how that kind of links with like determinism or something. I don't know. Um,
Well, I do think this is kind of a different sort of like
Philosophy.
interpretation he's explored, or not interpretation rather, but different sort of like area of metaphysics he's getting into here.
Hmm.
Where like sort of what he's referring to, and I'm not sure, I can't articulate exactly what he means, but at least his distinguishing of the few seem to be the ones that can capture almost a more like primordial slash like universal slash objective meaning of things.
Hmm.
Um, is sort of how I saw it,
I guess
or
that makes sense
took it to
because
be.
if you think about it, like how explaining how the sorcery is, it's like how context muddies the actual can't. So when you're speaking, sort when doing the sorcery, the reason why the gnosis is so powerful because it's exact. It's almost to the point, the exact point of the what identifying something like a table. You know, you can explain it to the exact, it to the exactness. that is a table, and you don't really have to have any biases or any outside influences that to cloudy that description of it's a table. And
Right.
so I guess that's what you. I guess it kind of makes sense what you're kind of explaining that way. Then.
Well, I guess what's tough here, and what's interesting to me is that, and again, like the metaphysics that Baker, I think, represents in these books, like it's a fantasy world. So I'm not necessarily saying it's one to one with his worldview, of course. But he, to me, really seems like the type of, and I don't really have the grounds or premises to back this up off the top of my head, but he seems like the kind of guy who would really subscribe to like this whole like sort of differential perception worldview, where like I'm not like sure if you've ever like, I actually think there's a really great Vsauce video. If you're familiar with Vsauce,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was like in middle school, this video like blew my mind, and I've been kind of thinking about it ever since. And it was almost, you know, I think sparked a lot of my interests throughout the past decade. Called, the name of the video is "Your Red is Not the Same as My Red," and it basically um, hits on the fact that like. Um, Everyone's perception of the world is going to be completely different, and like because like language is a tool that we have to sort of capture representations that like two people might use the same I'm not sure if this is exactly coming from the Vsauce video. I but like I guess just on this topic, two people might use the same word to describe the same thing, and when I say a word that you're familiar with, it's at least going to go through your auditory processing unit and bring about this an idea in your head that is mapped to like a representation of the same thing in the real world. But at the end of the day, like um, I don't know if not only if we see colors all the exact same way, but like if we even have the same like sort of visual field and interpretation of the world. Like basically everyone's internal movie in their mind or um, you know, internal stream of consciousness or whatever. There's just like literally no way to prove beyond language as these tools to like bring about these sort of uh, I like aspects of the natural world that we can like refer to in a similar sort of way. I almost lost where I was going with this sentence, but
Mm-hmm.
well, I think from the Vsauce video, there's a pretty cool example in there about how like, let's say like we meet an alien that um, could never experience pain. Like we can explain to like the like best degree possible what pain is, but like they'll never be able to experience it. And even so, among people though, like even if we think we have like a similar sort of experience of something, um, like we you just can't prove it. You
Yeah.
can't even prove that someone like I'm talking to you right now. I'm imagining that you have um, a similar sort of perceptual experience as me, but I don't know. Maybe you are just essentially a robot that performs sort of cognitive functions that in a similar sort of manner to me will lead to certain behaviors and reactions to things that seem to simulate emotion, but maybe you don't feel anything, maybe you don't perceive anything. There's no way to know.
Yeah. Just like
Anyway,
like I think how the color you see is blue might actually be my red, but we can't prove that it looks the same and to each other. Like
100%. Thank you for saying what I had spent the past 5 minutes describing in one sentence in an even more clear way. But anyway, um, even though I think like especially someone who's dedicated so much of their life as Baker seems to have, exploring what meaning is on several different levels, doesn't really seem like the kind of guy who would think it's possible in even a fantasy world that is um, sort of like ontologically the same setup as ours. Like this sort of magic doesn't really track with that worldview. The fact that like there even could be like cantations that are associated with some objective core meaning of something. I don't know. And again, I could be misinterpreting what Kellis is talking about. I could be misinterpreting the gnosis. Kellis doesn't even know the gnosis himself just yet.
Yeah,
So
at least
who
not
knows?
fully. Mhm.
That's my take. Yeah, I mean, with regards to determinism, I they're like I don't even really know if these topics are tangentially related. There is kind of the um, like maybe if you want to create a bridge between the two, you could think about like um, the autonomy and agency that a soul has, like being one of those intangible qualities that a soul might have. That you could also, I guess, throw like internalized meanings or things like that into that category. I don't know. Baker's getting metaphysical in these past few, that's for sure. That's the
Yeah, I
one
was
thing I
like,
can say with certainty here.
yeah,
And I think as Akka described this conversation, I think Kellis like had a look in his eye or something, and Akka's like, "Oh boy, here we go."
mhm,
Well, he's going to be up to some intellectual mischief. That's what he said.
basically.
Yeah. So interesting conversation nonetheless. And it is cool though, at least that the sort of magic of this world like falls into this sort of category of it's. I don't know. I think it's cool. Um, and maybe I'm getting too technical because at the end of the day, it's magic.
Yeah,
Um,
basically it's magic. I do agree. There's one other quote that kind of goes on to this. It says, "A sorcerer's words work miracles because they recall the god. Think, Akko. What does it mean to see the world as sorcerer sees it? What does it mean to apprehend the Anta? That many see the world through one pair of eyes. The grasp creation from but a single vantage, one angle among many." But the few, those who recollect, no matter how imperfectly, the God's voice possessed in intimate imitation. Oh, and I was saying, sorry, Jesus, my eyes, intimation of many angles. It's sometimes you know how when like you read one end of a line and you go to the next one, but you accidentally skip a line, and that just kept happening. Um,
you know what,
and
man? I feel like I have that same experience to you, but who can say?
who can say? Yeah,
No one can say if we have that shared experience.
experience.
But based on your description, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. You can cut that or you can keep that. Okay. Possess an
I'll keep that
intimation.
in. It's topical. Sorry, go on.
You possess an intimation of many angles and memory of 1,000 eyes that look out from the clearing we call here. As a result, everything we see is transformed, shadowed by insinuations of more. Um, so, kind of what I already was talking about, connecting to sorcery and having recollection. And they even mentioned something about the what uh what was it called, the language that the Kisharam use, suka, yeah. So like this, talk about how the suka is basically using like intuition, and they take out their eyes because they want to remember, or they said that it's supposed to help them remember, recall certain aspects. It's like they said, the many views, so they're using a different view. And I kind of think of like that's how like your senses, when you close off one sense, the other ones become slightly more enhanced, to
Mm,
compensate for that. So if you go blind, like your ears might, your hearing might be a little bit more intense and a little bit more sensitive, perceptive to certain things to help compensate for not being able to see. So that's what I'm
yeah.
thinking. What kind of the reason why the Kisharam does that, just to a different avenue.
Hey, you just like threw this idea into my head, but maybe that's why Siswatha is so apparent to Akka within I mean, obviously he kind of goes through his experiences in the dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But we've talked a bit about how Siswatha's sort of essence is still with him and like has been more awakened as of late recently
Yep.
during the daytime. But I guess when Akka's senses are all shut off, like that's when he really breaks through, and I guess that's why
Mm,
he's able to take over the dream. I don't know, maybe just a theory.
that's interesting take. I like that. Um. Uh. Okay, I already mentioned that. So at the end of that conversation, um, I guess like Akko is like kind of tearing up, and he's like, and this is like Kells was just like, okay, this is why you suffer, and then it's like And he says, "Why are you telling me this?" And he says, "Because you're not alone. Yeah, people feel the same way. People all feel the same way." I don't know if he truly believes it. Probably not. The gaslighter just working his magic. Um, but after that, we kind of swap to a different POV, which is for Sheila, Sheila. Um, and she's one of the girls that was working for Esminet, and she's been taken away to go meet someone, the commander, like I guess the commander of the slaves and stuff. And she kind of goes a little bit onto like her position in the hierarchy and how she's follows what they tell her to do. So pray to the 100 gods, or um do this, do that, wash Kellis's feet. She did what she was told tasked to do, and she wouldn't get in trouble. When any signs of misbehaving or um, of that such, you automatically get the boot. And she says a lot of people have been taken because they don't follow the rules. I follow the rules. I'm a good girl. So she said, I have nothing to fear, even though she seems like she's a little bit scared on why she's being taken to the head of the captain of the slave, that run the slaves. And it ends up being, what's the dude's name? The girl, that dude that works with Esme, not Gishruni. I keep saying Gishruni. Uh, Let me see. Where is it? Okay. The guy's name is Ware Joe of the Nascenti. So, and that was the guy that works closely with Esme in a circle. And basically, he's like, I need to hear the rumors. And she's like, what rumors? I'm willing to help. And he said, the rumors that Esmenet and Akka are still in physical and emotional relationship. And that is basically the end of the chapter. So,
There was one thing that I just wanted to call back to with the Kellis Akka sequence
yeah.
that I thought was um, pretty. Uh, this actually might have. I kind of had to do a double take, so I wanted to ask you. Um, but I think at the very end of their conversation, he said something about like how Akka isn't alone. Um,
Mhm.
which, and I just recall beforehand, Akka was like kind of just, like you said, wallowing in his sorrows as usual, thinking about how
Mhm.
alone he was because, I guess his mom's dead. He doesn't know what his family's up to. We know what's happened with all his relationships in this book. But I don't think he ever said that out loud. So, unless I'm misremembering, kind of doubt he would though. So, yeah, I just thought it was a cool way to end the sequence with Kellis just reminding us he can read this NF's mind as per
Yeah.
usual. So yeah, I liked that. And then, um, yeah, I guess that's about it on chapter 10. Um, so chapter 11, we actually kind of stay with this crew, which I was excited about. Because last time we did some alternations, but um, I didn't get to cover one of these chapters. So, and I'm kind of liking where we're at with this crew, especially like a chapter 10. I thought was particularly great. But anyway, this is chapter 11. We start off with this epigraph about the sort of cancer compulsion. I liked that one. I won't get too in the weeds, but it's a good one to look back at. I think um, just with regards to it kind of ties into both of what we like, both of the sort of metaphysical discussions we've had in the last couple chapters. First with people being driven by certain passions and compulsions and things like that, but then also um, I don't know. We'll come back to the cants because we've been learning more and more about the magic. So yeah. Anyway, we start off with some Holy War updates. So I'm sorry. How do you pronounce his name again? Athgiari, right?
Yeah, Ask Jerry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, he's over in Holy. Wait, what's this?
Amatu?
Yeah, right. So, and yeah, he's fighting the Canine, um, Fanayal and crew. Things aren't going too well for him. They go even worse, as we'll see when we end up there later on. But yeah. Kels kind of, taming his people, I think, notably, was a standout here, this little update. And then actually, an old blind man comes up to him and says something to him. And then Kellis, I think, just takes him out right after that. So, I mean, basically two interpretations of this situation.
Yep.
First of all, there's this Robert Pattinson Odyssey meme going around right now of him just,
Yeah, the
yelling out,
peasants.
"Somebody get these beggars out of here!"
Yeah, don't
Which
get the beggars out of here.
that could have been Kellis's attitude, but I think the more likely case is that this was just an agent of, well, I guess, trying for
Yeah,
some lore. Kind of how
definitely.
I think we saw at the end of the Warrior Prophet when one of them dropped some stuff for him. He was like, "All right, now just kill me now," so like no one's sus.
Yeah.
Probably that situation, especially since he was blind. So not necessarily a Kisharam wizard or sorcerer rather, but I think the blindness, most likely to me. I think this was kind of just a reminder that he's still trying to work all that out on the side, and hopefully, father's dropping the goods. Um, yeah, so then what do we got? I think we got a little Orang, who's just contemplating some stuff. Like the Dunyain are the console's biggest threat right now, and they're gonna um, see if they can use Esminet to deal with Kellis here. Um, and also, I believe this is where we kind of get the sense that, like, they were like, all right, Holy War, it sounded like a great idea at first because we're going to get rid of all these Kisharim.
Mhm.
But now, look at this mess. So this kind of drives into, I mean, listen, one of my big predictions I was going to get into later is something I think we've probably discussed every other episode where we're at with this, and we really just haven't gotten much more information on it. But yeah, I mean, it would make a lot more sense to me now. I mean, it's just further evidence for Mathanet being, a console agent of some kind. If that's why he got the Holy War going, why he got the Scarlet Spires involved, etc. So maybe we'll see. But yeah, then we get a little Eleazarus situation. So yeah, Scarlet Spire's got a skin spy, and they're all like freaking out about this whole console thing. Obviously, Elias has not been doing too hot past
No, not at
few
all.
chapters. Um, so yeah, and then yeah, Esme kind of like demands this skin spine. She kind of has some bars here.
Mhm.
Wrote down a couple things. We got um, I think Eliazarus like says something about like the whole capture Naka thing, and like I think he's kind of trying to be a little prideful about like how Esme should be thankful that he was an orchestrator and where she's ended up now. She says to him, "More men should take credit for their mistakes." Um, so thought that was good. And then yeah, I believe I think it's just made pretty clear with this sequence how Esme is giving a lot of gravitas to everything that Kellis is whispering in her ear. She says Shima is coming, and then says that with a gravitas where I think Eliezer just thinks to himself, like, as though names could have teeth. I think that was in relation to Shima.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Then, yeah, we got the OG trio who are kind of trying to get to the bottom of the skin spies, back in the lab. Um, of course, being Kellis, Esme, Akka. And yeah, so Kellis is talking. So this was another kind of interesting little chat we could have. Is how like, and this kind of comes up later on as well when we see Orang yet again. Um, but he's interpreting skin spies as like imitations of people, but not true souls. So now here was another thing, and this might kind of just be the way I interpret a point of view in a book to be. Typically, I I I generally assume an implication when you're reading from someone's POV that they are having a sort of conscious experience, like not like they're implied not to be like a philosophical zombie, I guess is what that That term is kind of used to describe something that might appear conscious, but they don't really have any actual internal experience or soul going on
Mhm.
within them. Like, I don't know, like essentially, I guess like a hard example would be like an AI that's acting human-like, but like they don't
Yeah.
actually have any uh, internal perceptions or anything like that firing.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. A couple scenarios. Number one, Kella says it wrong. Kind of unlikely. I feel like I don't know. There's a scenario where Baker doesn't write his POVs this way, where I'm not supposed to take that as an implication. Um, and I mean that it's not really a relevant bit, I think, to most other authors, but um, yeah, I don't know. I because we've had obviously POVs from Sosalis and whatnot. But maybe he meant soul in a different sense, where like I don't know, their psyche is different from humans. I mean that tracks. I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. If not, it's fine. It was just kind of a weird tangent my mind went on,
Not
um,
really, but
driven by my passions,
I,
so to speak.
I I don't know. I sometimes like some of the stuff that sometimes goes over my head, and I'm trying to piece things together or try to understand what he means by certain stuff, and I'm like, uh, I don't think I got it.
Well, no worries at all. Regardless, the consult skin spies are bad guys and less than. I think is what we need to take away here. But yeah. Anyway, eventually they get to holy. Oh, name slipping me again. The
Motu.
holy place where Echiari has been killed. Um, they have a funeral for him, and yeah, Kellis is Kellising. And also, I guess just because this, I believe, was, if I'm remembering correctly, another kind of zoomed out section. It just reminded me of a line. Wait, did I? I'm not sure. Did I bring this up for chapter 10? There was a line I wrote down that I really liked about how Kellis's effect on like everyone around him
No, you didn't
is
mention
like a
that.
stone tossing, or rather, a stone tossed into calm water.
Mm,
I really like that kind of ripple effect metaphor. So sorry for the callback, but I don't know. That just reminded me of that. Anyway, yeah, so we get some Esme and Kellis. And yeah, Esme just kind of goes through this whole thing where, like, basically on paper, apparently this is best case scenario for Esme, which, I mean, that's its own thing. But, she's still kind of traumatized and stuff. And Kellis just goes on this whole thing about how, like, yeah, listen, you can feel love, you can have faith. It's not going to erase what came before. Well, I don't know if he exactly says what came before, but the past. So yeah, she's got to deal with that. But yeah, I think Kellis goes off and whatever. Um, then final sequence with Esme. Um, did we? We might have discussed this. I'm pretty sure actually we did have this confirmed earlier that Orang was the consult spy who kind of like essayed her in
yep.
um back in Sumna book one. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
either way, it's he's back here and like she's literally just getting assaulted, but she's still just like so like aroused by him. It's another super disturbing sequence.
Very disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll gloss off over this to close out. But there was a line at the end where he's like, like with respect to the skin spies in general, like my children only imitate what they see, but me, like I take, and that's amidst him like forcibly grabbing her, get her legs like slackened to his touch or something like that.
Mm.
So
It's
yeah,
obviously
I
being charmed.
yes. So. That's that. Yeah, chapter 11. Yeah, I don't know. You got anything else? Um, I guess the Holy War logistics. I don't know. The reason I tend to kind of like, first of all, as I've said, I'm just a little. I guess the reason I'm less invested in just kind of unpacking all that is because it's all just kind of building steps leading up to, you know, where this holy war is going to take our characters. But if
Mm.
I, you know, if there are details that you think would have been worth mentioning about how things went down over here, feel free to jump in before we move to the next chapter.
No, I mean, the Kelly said to her, real Kelly said to her after they did the deed, and I was like, she keeps wanting him, but like, she's like, I'm offering you more, and he also mentions like how women are just like used and just like discarded, and they're used for basically their factories. They basically are used to produce sons, and he's like, I'm no better than anyone else. That's what I'm doing to put Dunyan sons in that stomach. And there are a lot of hurts that women are um, that women just that he could like for and not just women but like specifically for Esmond that like that he just can't heal or even fix. It's just like there's nothing that he could do to fix that, which is actually kind of crazy. That he admit that in his mind, like there's some things I just can't do. um um so I'm like, dang, you need all your power, you can't do that. But that was interesting. I did like that kind of that recollection, or not even recollection, that how would you say, an assessment or interpretation of kind of women in this world? Because like I think it was, who was it, Philip? Yeah, Philip Chase mentioned about how like women in the series, and almost everyone mentioned that women in the series have like zero agency, not almost, pretty much zero agency in this world. And like as Esme is like the only one that has somewhat agency in her life, and even then that's not really because she's being
I think Esme
controlled.
has a lot of depth, but like she really hasn't. I don't know. Maybe some of her like movements in book one influencing events like as a side product, but like, and I mean, I don't know. I think even Esme herself really like really has not demonstrated like having any agency here. I mean, certainly I guess more than Surway, because Surway
Yeah.
was like bottom of the barrel, like literally just like a pawn piece in the story. But yeah, I mean, I hit on this as a kind of criticism for like maybe something I would want out of book one. Um, it feeds into, I think, a lot of the things Baker is trying to, agency is really being explored at large here. But yeah, I mean, it, it sucks, and that's how it goes here. So yeah, I don't know. I still think a lot of the explorations here could have been maybe accomplished if you include a few more women movers. Even Zarias's like horrible mom, like I don't know, I guess you could say she's been sort of the most influential on. But I mean, really, we kind of got that big sequence when we got introduced to Zarias and Conphis.
Mhm.
Like I think it was a whole part, like the maybe the oh yeah, the second part of book one was called the Emperor, and
Mhm.
we explored some stuff there. And maybe like if I'd been paying a bit more attention, I might have tried to internalize a bit more how her influence on like raising them maybe moved
Yeah,
their characters a
raising them.
bit.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, um, definitely on my wish list for the next series that we get uh, just a few more. Like I still think there's been a fair amount of diversity in terms of types of people, and
Mhm.
like, and I mean that's the thing. Like I look for in like big multi POV stories in general is like to me it's like I don't think it's sufficient even just to have like diversity in terms of um, like male or female or like um, different sort of cultures that like that's definitely a plus, but I think you also need diversity in terms of character archetypes and personality types and things like that. I think there's a fair amount of that here, but either way, um, like I'm hoping the cast expands a bit in the next series, and um, having some more women POVs I think would definitely be a plus, and hopefully they can do something.
Mhm. In the next series of these books. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The Aspect Emperor.
Okay.
Uh, but
We'll
yeah,
see. We'll
we will
see.
see indeed. Because I seriously doubt that that's like something I can be asking for out of the last five chapters of this book.
Yeah.
If anything, that'd be kind of weird to bring in some huge story mover at the very end of the series, regardless of who it is, or the trilogy. But yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess we can move on to chapter
That's
12.
chapter
Or
12.
actually, yeah. So go ahead.
Okay. So we are in a dream sequence, for Inaka's dream sequence, with he's obviously Seswatha and he's with now Cayutis and Nasarimbar. So a cousin descendant of our dear old Kelhus. Um and they are in Golgotharoth, and they talk about, at first they mention something about the Isufarius, which is the non-men script from written by Nalgicus, which was a king, one of the Mansion kings, the non-men, and it's just basic like history of the non-men. But you see Seswatha uh, talk about the Ark, which is the ship. And Cayutis realizes that the ship was like made of bones, and he was like, "Yeah, the ship." Some interpretation, some people believe that the ship was a live ship. It was an actual. And I'm talking about live ship traders, but an actual
Well, it's
live.
actually it's funny you bring up Live Ship Traders because I think I haven't read it, but there's another series by R.J. Barker called the first book is called The Bone Ships, and then I'm pretty sure like those are like alive too in some respects. So I don't know, maybe a couple different shared roots here. Who knows? Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry, continue.
it's okay. I love live ships traders. It's one of my favorite trilogies. But yeah, so we find out that the ship is an Inkori ship, and it's called the Ark, and it was once it's thought to have been alive, and now Coyotes was like, yo, so that's what they mean by it was like the and Koroi were birthed onto the land or something like that. So like the ship kind of like shot out its own children out of itself before it died. Um, and so now this whole story about finding someone, I don't quite remember. Is like because Seswatha knows this person is dead, but he took Nine Coyotes and basically to this through this whole journey to uh for some means that we don't quite know, or maybe we do know, I just don't remember. Because this was like the second memory we had of him and Night Coyotes. Like the first one is like when they're at the top of the big pit. Now they're going through the actual ship and the actual halls of this ship, and they're like but they're looking for someone or looking for something. And Seswatha knows it's not, or the person's either dead or that thing is not here or the thing was gone. But he, he's brought him here anyways. After that, we swap to Kellis's POV, and Kellis is sitting there waiting for, I don't know, he's like in certain thought, but he notices the mark approaching. Someone with the mark approaching, and we find out it's one of these and Koroi, which in this case is um I about to say Mog 4L. It's not Mog 4L. If that was Mog 4L, it'd be pretty bad. It's Alrang. Um and Alrang, we now know at the end of this chapter, we know he's a general of the console, and one of like the main scares from the console that people are afraid of, have been afraid of for millennia. And basically, he charms Kellis and to try to give him more information, but he was asking questions and like trying to ask like basically what Alrang's motive is. Like he thinks that Kellis is a small time and they're trying to get to big fish meaning Mo Angus, because they see, dang, Callus is pretty powerful, but he's technically small. We can defeat him at any time. But with his capability he did in 1 year is crazy. What about the person that's done that has been out of whatever, out of the Ishwal for 30 years. Like, what kind of power does he have? What he's been willing, and that kind of also leads on to a point where I think it was either your POV or your chapter. I think it was where all it was Allring that was interpreting, or like, or was he Allring one of his servants that was in their POV talking about like, yeah, this Kishar, I mean, this Kel's kid is like super OP, but we need to we need to kind of nip this at the butt. Like, this guy Moengus, the father, is the real guy that we need to be worried about, because we thought Kisharm were like the main problems. But in all actuality, the Dunyan were using the Kisharm to eliminate some of their agents the in the Phanemery. That's why they try to set this whole holy war action into motion, is in
Mhm.
order to kind of kill out the Kisharm because they were hindering their plans. And which turns out it was Moangus that was controlling Kisharam to, or Moangus, I'm not sure if he's controlling, but Moangus is influencing Kisharam to do whatever. Um, prevent them, prevent the consult from taking power, or doing what they need to be done. But anyways, back to kind of what we're talking about. So he's basically seducing him using charms, and Kel's just like, "Yo, well, like, what are you?" Because he asked you, "What are you?" And they said we're a race of lovers. Basically, they can plague on just like the preternatural instincts of man. Um, and it's like, yeah, Kel's is like, "Why are you doing this?" Because he's trying to grab hold and control the circumstance, like trying to control the situation, total control freak. Um, and what basically was saying was like, yeah, we are damned either way, unless we do what our task is done. Obviously, I can't see what their task needs to be done, but um, Kelso's like, he notices that like he's being aroused, and he's like, it all comes down, and it's like, yeah, that's why we race lovers, because like we're we could tap into humans like primal emotions. And he's like, I thought, me being a Dunyan, I thought this was beaten out of me, or this was drilled out of me. But no matter how much I've suppressed this, this is still here. Desires are somewhat still here, and passions, I guess. And obviously he was clapping cheeks, and eventually he realized how strong his charm is, and he was giving answers while he was clapping cheeks of like what who Moangus is, and what they're doing, what Moangus is doing. And he realized like, oh, I can kind of defend myself. So he thinks of the one of the cants that Akka did. Akka was telling him that for like compulsion to like prevent that, and he was able to prevent that by using one of their cants, and he broke the spell. And Allring tries to control the situation more. He tries to fluster him, and then Kels really was peering into his eyes and really trying to dig deep and get every information he can out of him, seeing all the past atrocities Allring has gone through, and try to control the circumstance. He rattles a little bit Allring, but it turns out Allring was basically a cover, basically a not a trap, but a fake to keep Kellis distracted, when his true goal was to kill um, Akka, because he's going to give them the Gnosis. So, um, yeah. So we jumped to Akka, or we jumped back to um, 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 we jumped back to Akka's POV. He's still in the dream, still talking about um, stuff going on with now Cayutas, and he's kind of been woken up by Proyas in the middle of the dream. So he's kind of, Proyas and not Cayutas are like two of the same people in the sense that they're reflecting each other. So he eventually wakes up, and Proyas says that you need to go sin Zen now. And then we jump back to Callus. Um, and Callus is basically comforting Esme, talking about how things that she said, that the person that was raping her was saying, it's like, Kels really doesn't love you, and she's like, no, he really does. Like, he's just giving her soothing words, even though I don't think he really cares or really means it. And yeah, I mean, it's not that stuff is not important, but it was basically trying to soothe her over. We jump back to Akka's POV, and he is talking. He's reflecting his time with his father, and how he was, how his father was like strict and kind of like a dictator in his own house. He had some fear, but he was like, but once the mandate came to send their people to come and get all people that have shine signs of the few, um, his father turned down the offer, saying like, he's the one that out of his siblings, he's the one that doesn't have to get beaten as much for told because he's smart enough, and he's capable, and he just didn't demand it. And he's like, you're not going to take him away just because, basically on principle, it's mine, and even if I don't use it, it's still mine. And the guy that was there to get Akka basically says, I'm not asking, I'm telling. And he just basically beats him up. Him and his boys jump him, and the deck is beat up. And Akka kind of just watches in cold regard. He doesn't care. He's like, I just see now, like in this light, like how little my father is in the grand scheme of things. He's basically nothing. Um, and he gets on the little cart, and his dad was like, "You're gonna pay for basically you're gonna pay for this," and he's like, "You're in demand." And yeah, just in it just shows that like this guy has no power really. He plays it up in his head, like his father's power in this, and when he was young was played up in his head. We move on to
Power resides where men think it resides.
exactly where is that from?
Game of Thrones, baby.
It was that was Littlefinger, or no,
That was
Ferris.
Varys. That
Ferris,
was
Ferris.
Varys.
Yeah, was that the show or was that in the book? I can't remember.
It
If you did
is in both. It is in
really was in the
both.
book.
I
I
would
don't remember
say
that.
it's actually the well, I'll cut the tangent in a sec, but it is a similar conversation between Varys and another character, but the setting of the scene is different in both.
Yeah, because I remember he said
Between
that. I could have sworn he said that to then when they had that little tidbit between Varys and Littlefinger. But damn,
no,
I might
no,
have to
no,
rewatch
something
that.
else.
Oh, something
Uh,
that
I,
was at the wheel, right?
it, I'll hold. I don't want to take us down some spoiler tangent, but
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
no, 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 you're good. But yeah, it was indeed Varys.
Okay.
But anyway, all right, back to Akka.
Yeah. So I kind of go into after he kind of has that kind of like epiphany, we see him go visit Zen, and Zen's sick with some type of lung disease, and there's like kind of having their like a little moment together. I mean, Zen's still kind of crazy, and he talked about Benjuka and how he's Akka takes it. He's like, he asked him, "Have you ever wanted Benjuka?" And he's like, "No." So I said, "That's because you take it so literally, or take it so seriously." And he was about to finish something, but he finished the joke, and Akka was just humoring him, and then he started coughing up a lung, literally. Um, and he tells Akka to leave because he's sick. Uh, and Akka does leave eventually, and then we kind of move to Akka is being summoned by summoned by Proyas, and him and Proyas have a little spat, but it was like very small. And he went to go end up going to see Callus. And Akka, this is where it like gets interesting. So Akka was talking with Callus, and then like he started like Callus started like kind of trying to probe, and Akka was like kind of like he lost his glamour of of Callus because of Zen. When Zen died, it was like, or Zen's sick. Well, spoiler, he's gonna die. I'm sorry. That was me slipping up, but he's dead. And, um, when Zen died, it was just like it was like a switch that flipped on. It's like, why didn't you heal him? Like, maybe not heal him physically, but heal his mind. Like, you're a prophet, you can do these things, you should be able to do these things. And something really, that was like a switch, is like, realized like he's not a prophet, he's just talking out of his ass. um and very silver tongue, dare I say golden tongue, silver tongue is understatement. um and he, like, all the like the sadness of things, of just like losing people one after another, losing Esme, losing his mother, losing Inrao, losing Zen, like his quote unquote basically his brother, older brother. It's like, and you couldn't do this one thing. And that kind of snapped him out of that worship light. And he said, basically, he said, who, he said pretty, literally, like, who are you? You're not the warrior prophet. And Kel's kind of lost that, dropped the demeanor, which he only does with Naor. And he says the truth. And he said truth. And then Kel's basically has a chokehold on him. Um, Literally grabs him by the throat. And I could realize, like, yeah, I could still kill this guy here, which I don't know. Yeah, he could do it. I'm
He
not sure
wouldn't.
if he
End of
wouldn't
the
do it.
world and all that.
Yeah, he wouldn't do it, but he he could. I don't know if he could have. I think maybe, I don't know. He wouldn't have any defense, but um, yeah. So he he ends up dropping him, but he starts to think of his father, because Kel's, playing the persona, when he's trying to manipulate. And that's also kind of reminds me of things I should have mentioned in by other chapters, like he's using mannerisms, body language that Enra would use to kind of to placate and trying to get that more familial emotion out of him. But this time he used the Akka's father to get more of a direct, like, obedient reaction, because Akka was basically like saying, "Don't beat me, father," and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like he has been submissed. He's been beaten down like a dog, and of course, Kellis is comforting him in that instance, in that end. So uh, I would like to see what your interpretation of the that whole exchange, because that was the last bit of chapter 12.
Yeah, I this one I don't have honestly much beyond like the um like sort of events that transpired. Um at least anything to add of interest. I don't know. Kellis, my and this is a broader statement, I think. But like we've seen him kind of let down his guard in a sense, as you mentioned with um Nayor, I guess. Really when it gets to a point where like Akka was not gonna kill him there. I
Mm-hmm.
think Kellis knows that. Um and I think he brings it down when it's clear to him that like um being kind of, the false prophet in a sense isn't gonna cut it.
Mm-hmm.
He's almost like taking someone, he's like granting them like, okay, like I'll take you a little seriously here. Like the only way I'm going to be able to actually keep moving and manipulating you here is if I, like, yeah, I know you're not taking this BS, so I'll give you another lesser degree of BS.
Let's
Um,
agree.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. Did you have any additional thoughts?
No, that's pretty accurate. Lesser signs of BS.
Well, I mean, I think actually there was the one thing I did write down, which was much earlier. I think this chapter we got some Kel's POV, and he just like his very analytical sort of perception of the world. I thought was just something I noted down. It was cool to read a bit of, but yeah, man. At the end of the day, tomorrow we march on Shima, so um, we're here.
Yeah.
We're basically here. We got one more part. I imagine next episode is going to be very long.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be 5 chapters. Um, I think we'll probably, I guess the way we'll cover them is like I'll do the um, again like the odd chapters, so I'll be doing 3 because I think that's still a fair distribution because Second to last chapter looks pretty enormous.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, then like what we've done with the past two books is we've kind of reviewed and discussed overall thoughts on the book. But this is the end of the trilogy. And I do want to follow up next time on kind of what, like, so I've mentioned a couple times this episode, I've got kind of a wish list slash prediction. So I'll just get into that list of stuff I wanted to hit on. Um, will these hold? I don't know. You never really know where you're going with Baker. But Mathanet, um, yeah, console agent, as I've said. I guess he could be Moangus, but probably not because he wasn't in Shima. He is on the way though, right? So I don't know. If we don't learn anything about Mathanet, I'm gonna be pretty pissed.
Mm,
Nayor, I think he's getting his showdown with Moangus, and I expect him to fold when given the opportunity to kill him.
mm.
Because that is the tragic quality of Nayor I think that we've been expecting or inspecting in general. I don't know. I want some revelations as to what Moengus has been up to for the past 30 years. I at least want to see him on page. Like that's the least I could ask for, right?
Mhm.
I think I'll get that. Hopefully. Um yeah, I think Akka is it's really kind of been building to like a bleak and pathetic end to his arc, I think. Like we know he lives because of the epigraphs, like he goes on to document the Holy War. But yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of see his role in this trilogy at large. I mean, I think there's been a lot of psychological exploration with him, but in general, I mean, he's someone we've been following from the beginning, who we've just watched Kellis dismantle the world around him, including his own world and the external movement of things, and he's been at the forefront of all of that. So I don't think it's going to end up very well for him.
Me neither.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, he gives Kellis the gnosis, though. TBH, I kind of want to see him do some kind of crazy magical improv. That'd be cool. At least maybe in the next series, if not here. But we'll see. But then with regard to Kellis, I think we've really kind of noticed and observed throughout this book and the end of the Warrior Prophet, he might not be as impenetrable as we think. I think
Hmm.
something bad could happen to Esme that breaks him a little bit, but I don't know. And I definitely think Conphus is going to die, and I hope we're in his head when he dies.
Hmm.
It'd be a good laugh, I think. And then I wanted to check with you. Am I blanking on this, or do we still not really know why the Kisharim infiltrated the spires a decade ago? Do we have like, or I guess not, but I mean, I would assume not Mayfair, Moangus played a role in that. I don't know. Hopefully, some more answers there, or am I slipping on like some reveal we got? Or
I don't know how.
that's fine if you're not certain about something that we know already. Like that's fine. I was just wondering if there was some like big piece of information we've gotten and went over
I
that
don't
I'm
know
just
if they
blanking on.
ever explained it, but I well, all right. You know what? Let's finish
That's
the
fine. They
book.
just hold, just
Yeah,
hold.
I will tell you at the end of the next week once we finish because I think or not next week, the week after technically.
Yeah.
Um, but I think you will. I'm not sure if it's already explained what that happened or not, but
Okay. Sounds good. Well,
if it isn't
regardless,
explained, then I'll explain it.
something I'm kind of the most interested in, and we'll see how much of this you can even reveal next week. Maybe a lot of this you can't really talk about till we read the second series, but I'm most interested to know kind of takes I've had or like things I've been saying where you're just keeping your mouth shut, like laughing within throughout this these these discussions we've had. So
Uh,
hopefully you have some reports. Does anything come to mind that we'd be able to talk about in that
I can answer
regard?
all these questions next week,
Okay,
or
amazing.
you should be able to get an answer to all these questions next week.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I just mean even like no. Okay, I guess kind of these are kind of the building questions and things I've had takes on. So, all right, good stuff. I'm looking forward to it. To Shima we go.
Shima, we go. Yeah, the next part is this. The next part's the only thing I remember from this book. So,
Okay, well, soon I will too. All right, bye everyone.
see ya.